The fan noise on the 14-inch M1 Max is completely unacceptable. No matter how hard you try to defend this MacBook, after I spent £3,000 on this laptop, there is no way that you can justify a reason for this happening. Yesterday, I finally received my 14-inch MacBook Pro with the M1 Max 32-core GPU and 32GB of RAM. The very first thing I did with the 14-inch MacBook Pro was run my DaVinci Resolve render test. This is a timeline that consists of heavy color grading, the deflicker effect applied to every single clip, and a bit of noise reduction. Now on my M1 iMac that's sat behind me over here, this video took 33 minutes to export, and on the 16-inch M1 Pro with 16GB of RAM, it took roughly 11 minutes to export. And on the M1 Max with 32GB of RAM and a 32-core GPU, it took 6 minutes and 55 seconds. I was quite impressed by the 4 minutes saved on the M1 Max compared to the M1 Pro. However, during that 7-minute render, the noise of the fans was completely unacceptable. Although saving this additional 4 minutes is quite significant on this 4K timeline, the problem is the fan noise just gets significantly louder and louder and louder during the entire render duration. And the real reason why I use M1 Max for all of my video editing over my far more powerful Windows gaming computer is because of how silent they are with no fan noise during operation. Because to be truthful, the timeline that I rendered out on this laptop is pretty basic in comparison to what some professionals may do with a machine of this capabilities. After performing these render tests, I then went on to try a couple of games. Now, we'll be doing a full video talking about the gaming performance of the M1 Pro versus the M1 Max, so make sure you subscribe so you don't miss that video. But for now, I launched into one of my favorite games, which is City Skylines. For a reference point in this title, the M1 Pro with the highest resolution and graphics settings was getting around 25 frames per second in the super busy areas, and in the less taxing scenarios, it was getting 40 to 45 FPS. And when running the exact same tests on the M1 Max, I was getting the exact same results. The only difference I saw was a more consistent 30 frames per second across different areas within a map. Now, I haven't created this video to say that the M1 Max is pointless compared to the M1 Pro, because that simply is not true when you look at any benchmark. I just think it seems that the 14-inch has airflow issues compared to the 16-inch, and this needs further investigation. So after my first day of use and running these tests, I've just found this M1 Max to be incredibly frustrating to use. It has met none of my expectations, and I find it really concerning that none of the other YouTubers have raised any of these fan noise issues. If you want to see my more positive and full review of the 16-inch M1 Pro MacBook, I highly recommend checking out this video next.